What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Another Friday, another episode of Why Are We Bullish? We got a killer panel today. Very excited to have all these gents here. Should be a lot of fun. Of course, we're going to dive into this momentarily. This is live. Anything can happen. So I defer to my friend Bill here.
We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. And thing sucks.
If you have not already, please do like, subscribe, and share. All those things help a ton. That little like button just below the screen, make sure you give that a tap. Share this on whatever socials you happen to be on. That helps bolster the show. And of course, if you have not already, subscribe. I'm on the quest to 100K subscribers by the end of 2024. That's what I'm looking for. So if you can help me in achieving that goal, that's a huge one. It's been elusive, but hopefully I can get there. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for being here. I am Ben with the BTC Sessions. This is your daily session.
HODL the Bitcoin.
Before we bring in our panelists, take a quick look at where we are in the market right now. This is timechaincalendar.com. And also at the same time, I'm going to be bringing up the live chat that is now overlaid on the right-hand side of the screen. So all of your comments from here on in are going to be live for the world to see, for better or worse. So anyways, timechaincalendar.com. We're sitting at $36,628 per coin. A single US dollar will pick you up 2,730 sats. In terms of fees, looks like 105 sats per byte next block. Anytime fee is 24 sats per byte, and the mempool is purging anything below 11 sats per byte. So that's a little bit better than it was earlier today, but still be aware that mempool has been crazy lately. And actually it is a little bit lower now, 86 sats per byte. So yeah. It is what it is. Anyways, and in terms of Bitcoin mined, 19.55 million of them. That's 93.07% of the total supply. Shout out to sponsor of the show, HODLHODL.com. If you are buying Bitcoin and you have the following priorities in mind: peer-to-peer, instant self-custody, no KYC, then this is an easy way to do it. You can sign up with nothing more than an email address. Once you're in, choose a currency, payment method, and an amount, and you can start browsing offers immediately and stacking non-KYC sats. They also have peer-to-peer lending where nothing is ever rehypothecated. You can check them out. Links are down below. Of course, you're going to want to secure your Bitcoin with some of the best hardware on the market. I love what CoinKite's doing. The Cold Card Mark IV is my go-to hardware of choice. I've got all their other goodies as well, like tap signers, sats cards, block clocks. And I pre-ordered the hell out of the Cold Card Q, which is coming soon. It looks beautiful. I'm very excited for it. So if you want to pre-order that or pick up anything else I mentioned, head over to coinkite.com. Use code BTC Sessions for 5% off everything in the store. Of course, backups are important as well. One of the most beautifully designed and more robust options on the market is the Seedor with their disc and capsule design. Basically, the starter set comes with everything you need to set up one or two seeds, depending on which one you do. And the nice part about it is if you do need to change your seed, swap it out, you don't have to rebuy the entire set. You just swap out the discs, which is super cheap to do. And you can do an additional information on the disc too, like derivation paths or just designating what wallet it is. So lots of versatility with this stuff. Check them out. I have a video on it and links are down below for the best shipping depending on where you are. Nunchuk has you covered with your assisted multi-sig needs. Love these guys. I use them myself. Basically what it is, you can set up a multi-sig on your mobile device. You can do it. They will hold you through the whole process. You can use things like tap signers, cold cards, and a whole bunch of other hardware options. Once it's set up, they hold one key, you hold the rest. And then you have baked in inheritance planning. So your sats get to your next of kin if anything should happen to you. And the whole thing also is non-KYC. So you don't need to give your private information up to have it set up and working for you. Check them out. I did a video on this as well, and links are below. And finally, shout out to Start9, your sovereign computing solution, where you can host not only your whole Bitcoin life, but your digital life as well. So these plug and play devices, you can host things like Bitcoin Core, your Lightning node, mempool.space, join market. You can also run files, passwords, photos, Nostr relays and clients, and actually they've recently added some AI stuff as well that you can self-host. They have everything from entry-level devices all the way up to what I'm running, which is the Start9 server Pure. So you can check them out at start9.com. And the Pure, I think they just reduced in price by a couple $100, and you could get an additional 18% off if you use my code BTC Sessions with a plus sign at the end. And that is specifically for the Pure. Anyways, guys, enough of my rambling. I want to get in my panel here so that we can get rolling on things. I want to welcome to the stage Mr. BritishHODL, also Shane Hazel, and from Galoy, Nicolas. And I gotta say, is it Burtey, or am I saying that incorrectly? How do you say it?
Do you want to say the English way or the French way?
Let's hear the French way. See how bad I was.
Nicolas Burtey.
Burtey.
Yes.
Burtey. Okay. All right. So close. Not great. The improvement could be made, we'll say, on my part. But dude, thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate all of you taking the time out to be here. And for those unfamiliar, I think let's go around and do a quick round of intros. Who are you and what do you do? And then we'll dive into the show. So BritishHODL, I'll toss it to you. Can you give yourself a quick little intro?
Yeah, so firstly, it's my honor to be here. You're the only channel that I watched when I was trying to figure out how do I do this thing in 2020 when I was transitioning, I guess, from, that's a weird word to use, I guess, nowadays, but transitioning from TradFi of real estate, stocks and gold into Bitcoin. So, and your channel was the only one that gave me the confidence to actually first self-custody my Bitcoin. So it's an honor to be here. Firstly, I want to say that. Secondly, yeah, that's my background. I'm traditional assets, started off in real estate, negotiating property deals at a very young age with my dad. And then that transition to equities, and then gold. And then, you know, realize I had my wake up moment when it comes to Bitcoin in 2020. So I'm relatively new to the game, but I come with experience from TradFi, and, you know, I try and bring that to Bitcoin.
Awesome. Well, dude, I'm really glad to have you, and I'm sure you'll say it later in the show, so I don't want to spoil it. But I've really taken to your single line piece of advice that you give people, and maybe we'll get that in a moment. But we'll save it for a second here. I'm going to toss it next to Nicolas, and welcome. And can you give yourself a little intro?
Yeah, thanks for having me today. I'm the founder of a company called Galoy. We are building software for Bitcoin, for organization to become sovereign. The first, I guess, product we have been working on for the last couple of years is called Blink Wallet, formerly known as Bitcoin Beach Wallet. I guess we're going to talk a little bit about that today. We also organize a conference called Adopting Bitcoin. We just did the third session in El Salvador last week, and I think it went quite well. So yeah, I'm doing a couple of things in the Bitcoin space.
Awesome. And I've tried Blink, and I did a video on it. I can't recall how long ago it was, maybe a few months back or earlier this year for sure. But yeah, it's really cool. There's lots of awesome features, and you guys have baked in even more stuff since then. So yeah, you guys are doing some good work, and you tackling El Salvador and now the world. So good job.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. And I'll toss it to Shane. Dude, welcome back, returning to the show again. Can you give yourself a little intro?
I can give myself a little intro. Thanks for having me, first and foremost. I really appreciate it. Always good to be with you, Ben, and the rest of you guys. I'm Shane Hazel. I work on the Swan private team. I also run a couple of podcasts with some amazing guys. The first one that I'd probably say is the Bitcoin Veterans podcast. It's starting to really catch fire. I see a lot of these guys out in the chat. So what's up, guys? And I also run Radical. I've done some things in politics in the past, and I don't know. I'm excited about Bitcoin and everything that's going on. The fact that you got a show that just talks about being bullish and why everybody is, even in crabbing bear markets and everything else, it's a great place to be. So thanks for having us, Ben.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And I've got to say, Shane, you had me on your show a while back, and you did your intro and all of your I think you might have the most epic intro to a podcast I've ever seen. Like, there's like eagles and and like flags and shit going on, and it was
Very American, very libertarian, very American. Have you seen the one for the Bitcoin veterans yet?
I have not seen that intro screen.
Oh, it's probably just as good.
Okay,
It'll get you going.
I got to see that. I mean, I felt like I wanted to mount a bald eagle and crush a beer can on my head, and and you know, like, I'm Canadian, so that's saying a lot. So
you're gonna fit right in North Georgia down here, my man.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you for being here again. We're gonna dive in. For everybody that's in the chat, of course, I see the chat going wild. Thank you all for being here and being a part of the show. I will be highlighting. I will be. See, Shane, there's already people saying Bitcoin Veterans has an epic intro, so I'm gonna have to go and investigate. I'm gonna have to check that out. And again, also Tyler Durden saying the same thing. Veterans intro is amazing. So, nonetheless, this show, for those that maybe are tuning in for the first time and aren't familiar, this is Why Are We Bullish? So, very simple premise to the show. Each one of us comes with a reason why we are bullish about Bitcoin. And this can be really anything. It could be a personal experience. It could be a news item. It could be a new app or development or a movie that we saw, or just really anything that has made us excited in the moment or in the last little bit. And so the structure of the show, basically, the flow of the show is, number one, somebody's going to drop their reason why they are bullish. This is their chance to rant and get whatever they have on top of their mind off their chest. Number two, all together, we're going to riff on that reason. We're going to comment, ask questions, go down whatever rabbit holes we decide to go down. And then finally, once we put a bow on that reason, number three, we're going to rotate to the next person until we've all had a turn. So reason, riff, rotate, the 3 R's, simple. So I'm going to get us started today. And this is, I'm going to file it under the category of personal experience, I suppose, or ongoing personal experience. And so, funny enough, Shane, so this relates to, you know, Swan in a way, in and around, like, Shane, earlier this year or earlier this week, you know, you guys kind of sounded the alarm, like, yo, banks are starting to do things that they weren't previously doing, right? And so that was in and around privacy practices for individual Bitcoiners. If you're somebody that uses CoinJoin in any way, shape, or form, there has been a proposal, I believe, through FinCEN, basically saying that even the most basic of basic privacy practices is like using new addresses every time you do anything, that would be slapped down if this were to go through, which I don't think that it will be taken to that extent. However, banks appear to have been proactively already saying, if you're doing any sort of privacy practice like using CoinJoin, then we want to know about it. We want exchanges to be on top of it. And if you are, then we want perhaps potentially you to shut their accounts. And this doesn't just apply to you guys. This applies to everyone, you know, like potentially in the US right now. And so this is a big problem. And so I saw two things. Well, there's two things about this. Number one, I saw a lot of people like dogpiling and almost like blaming Swan, which I found silly because it applies to everybody. And you guys have been pretty vocal about it. Like, hey, we need to comment on this and try to make sure that this doesn't happen. But I saw a lot of people dogpiling, but also not offering any action to take, right? They were, you know, bitching without helping in any way. And so I saw this and I was like, you know, first of all, yes, like the Jan was putting out like, hey, if you want to comment on this, which I believe there's now over 1,100 comments, it's probably even more since I last saw, which is great. But also Bitcoiners need to step the fuck up and they need to start local and they need to start building with each other and not relying on asking permission anymore. And so when I saw people bitching without offering any action. It kind of pissed me off. And so so I tweeted out this. I said stop bitching and take some initiative. Asking permission has never worked. And so I said, anyone in Calgary, which is the city I live in, that wants to bootstrap a local Bitcoin circular economy with me, it's happening. Here comes the Saturday Sat market. Help me build it. And so I put up a page, a couple places, one on the Orange Pill app, which you can just like find local Bitcoiners near you. And so I said, this is what I want to do. Can you help? I'm looking for merchants and people that are just interested in coming and basically starting to live on a Bitcoin standard, a circular economy. And then I also had a meetup page that went up for it as well. And so what ended up happening is I got in 24 hours, less actually, in less than 24 hours, I got a ton of interest around this. And I just want to read you guys kind of some of the responses that I got, and I'm just pulling it up here in terms of people. Number one, I got so many emails and people reaching out saying that they just wanted to help in any way. There's a lot of passionate people, and I have people from not just in my city, but from outside, like outlying areas. And when I say outlying areas, I mean there's people that are making I know there's two groups of people that are making a 7-hour drive into Calgary to come to this event, to be part of it and to be a merchant at it. And I know another guy that's flying from Vancouver to Calgary, which if you were driving, that's 12 hours. It's an hour and a half flight. And he's coming into Calgary specifically to help bootstrap this circular economy. And I want to detail some of the different types of merchants that I've got, because it's all sorts. I've got somebody that's from a company called Mountain View Granary. They do grains and flour and all that stuff. I've got Dominion North, which does carpentry, construction, and renos. I've got Rocky's Sausage House. They obviously do sausage and meat. I've got a few different artists that are doing just like apparel and then physical art. I've got a couple that are doing Inuit carvings. And so like lots of art pieces and everything. I've got a dude that sells solar panels that's coming down. I've got a few bakers that are bringing like sourdough and other baked goods. I've got a company driving in for 7 hours that does specifically a reseller of Bitcoin hardware wallets, books, apparel, all of that kind of stuff. I've got a candy shop. I've got 3 different farmers that are bringing a mix of chicken, eggs, beef, lamb, dairy, all of it. I've got a guy who's a plumbing and heating expert. I've got financial coaching experts. I've got somebody who sells wedding packages at his ranch to do weddings. I've got somebody that is flying in that does Bitcoin for gift cards. And then I've got, even the other day, I'm sitting there getting my hair cut and I'm telling my barber about this thing that I'm doing in December. And he's like, oh, cool. Do you need a barber? And so now it looks like my barber is now coming to be part of the Saturday Sat market. There are almost 25 different merchants currently, it's still a month away, that are partaking in the Saturday Sat market, the first one. And my favorite thing about this, in terms of the asking permission never works, is let's say we start doing this and you have people that are, living on, earning, and, and very importantly, obviously saving in Bitcoin, because that's a big part of it. That's how you kind of get out of that fiat rat race. But like, if you're living on Bitcoin, it also prevents you from financial institutions telling you no, right? And so what I'm excited about is, when we do this, my plan is not to say, come here every X amount of time to go and get all of your goods for Bitcoin. No, the plan is, I want you to meet these people. I want you to build relationships with these people so we all know each other. And then it doesn't fucking matter if somebody kicks down the door and says you're not allowed to do this anymore. What are you going to do? Make sure that we can't contact each other ever again? I'm not going to be able to go to my friend and buy eggs and send them some sats? No fucking way. And so that's the vision here is I want to create a community of like-minded people that cannot be trampled on. And once those connections are made, they can't be undone. You know, you have stuff, I have sats. Who's to say that you coming over for a Sunday brunch isn't also me buying some eggs for sats? Nobody can say for sure. Maybe you just brought them for fun. So anyways, that's why I'm bullish. I'm very excited about, for the first time, building a Bitcoin circular economy where I am. I think it will be possible for others to do. And my last thing is I want to say to people, don't wait for somebody else to do this, because that's kind of what I was doing. And this like week in the news cycle made me say, and everybody else should ask themselves, if not you, then who? Because somebody has to do it, and it may as well be you. So if you're watching this right now, go. If there's not a local meetup, start one. If there is one, start standing up and saying, hey, I'm looking for the following thing in Bitcoin. And if somebody's at the meetup that does that thing, you'll be damn sure that they're willing to accept sats for it. And if they don't do it, but they know somebody who does, what's going to come up the next time they're in conversation with that person, even if they're not a Bitcoiner? Oh, I was at a Bitcoin meetup and some dude's looking for a barber that will accept Bitcoin. That guy's going to be curious. He may not jump on it right away, but that's going to be his first touch point with Bitcoin. And so I implore you to go and start doing these things. And if you've got a good community already, then you have enough to start something like this. So that's where I'm at. Gentlemen, I'm going to let any of you dive in wherever you want. I'm just going to open it up. Do any of you have thoughts on this that want to tag in?
I have so many thoughts, if you guys don't mind. I mean, the fact that I just went from 6 to midnight over here, like, just what a great speech, my man. No, I mean, and maybe a little bit of a weird flex with the barbers and having haircuts, as me and British are sitting here, like, having probably been our own barbers for a while. Now, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen that are out there, this is the perfect opportunity. I think Ben has showed a tremendous amount of testicular fortitude in saying, we're done asking for fucking permission. We don't give a shit what FinCEN or any of these other people have to say. Bitcoin is what we know. We know what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is one of those things where if we want to have a goddamn transaction, then that's what we're going to have. And you can't stop us. The beautiful thing about what's going on in this space now is you guys are starting to recognize that we are early. We've talked about a lot of this kind of stuff with citadels out there in the past, and, you know, markets, I think, kind of plays right into the same role. Is, you know, a lot of people will get caught up like, well, how are you going to do this, and what is this going to be, and who is going to, you know, pull this thing off? And hey, listen, it's you. We are the few. We are early. We are the people that are now planting flags all over the world. And so if you want to do something, or if you want to see something, you have the prime real estate. It is almost a blank slate out there right now in terms of a market. If you want to slap Bitcoin on it, whether it's Bitcoin homeschool or Bitcoin veterans or whatever it is you have a chance to plant a flag, like, literally, and just go out, stake it, and then do the work. Get it done. Invite as many people as you can. Like, I saw all these tweets last week, Ben, and, you know, I think I retweeted actually all of them. And then I saw the fact that you got like all of the ranchers in you know, Calgary, and I was just like, wow, dude. Like,
There's a lot of ranchers. I didn't quite get all of them, but I got a subset.
I'm just being facetious, obviously, but the idea that, you know, this happened within what, 24 hours, 48 hours, and, you know, he's got buy-in, he's got a mission, he's got understanding, he's got people from different backgrounds. This is just to show you the power. And I know Ben's got some reach out there, but it didn't come because he was just, you know, well, I think I'll do this one day. It came with a lot of effort. It came with a lot of time. It came with a lot of expertise, some understanding. And when, you know, you start to apply all those kind of things, especially over time, halvings, you name it, you get something that's extremely powerful. And now that you're networking and having people meet I got to tell you, man, kudos to you. Hats off. Way to go. I mean, I would be bullish as hell right now with all those things happening. And I will tell you, we're working on some things like my kids attend these markets down here where they're all little entrepreneurs, and introducing Bitcoin to those markets so that the localities around my community start to understand that, hey, there is an appetite for this. This isn't scary internet money. This is just something that you need to understand in terms of practical application. And once you understand the practical application of holding your own keys, being able to transfer and doing some KYC or some management of UTXO, like that's really easy stuff. And people just, they kind of look at it. I think there's a lot of FUD out there that scares people away. I think a lot of it is just hard work that scares people away. But at the end of the day, go out there. If you want to see this thing succeed, you've got to make it succeed. And it's not a foregone conclusion yet. But at the same time, I think the odds are in your favor if you're willing to put in the work, you're willing to do a little advertisement, and you're willing to work with other people. So yeah. Great job, Ben.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Nicolas, I'm curious about your thoughts on this because, again, you guys are you've been in the thick of it. You're bootstrapping a lot of these things to places that already have circular economies going. So I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah, my first thought is thinking about so first, the idea of starting circular economy like in the US or in Canada feels harder than in emerging countries. And, there is a concept of if you're a place and you don't necessarily agree, in the direction of the country, you have the, voice versus exit, right? Like a concept that I guess Balaji has highlighted, where if you're in Canada, I've met so many Canadian people, whether, in Portugal over the last 2 years or in El Salvador or, and it seems that most Canadians, have had enough with what's been happening the last couple of years, and they choose to exit, right? They didn't choose the voice option. To a point where, like, okay, is Canada, not, is it falling or not? But for me, the first, I mean, trying to bootstrap the circular economy, I guess, in Canada is the concept of, okay, no, I'm not going to leave because I disagree with the direction it's going. I'm going to actually do something and stay here and try to change I guess, my environment, right? Mm-hmm. And I love the idea because I guess it might be one of the first initiatives in Canada. I guess it's probably not as, I'm not saying it's easy in El Salvador, for instance, by far, but it's maybe somewhat easier to actually, and Bitcoin could be split into two concepts. There's, the buy Bitcoin, the use Bitcoin. I'm really in the use Bitcoin camp, so be able to use Bitcoin as a payment system, mm-hmm. Which, by the way, is, I think, essential to, as you highlighted, right, to the success of Bitcoin, because if the on-ramp of ramp get cut out, if you can use Bitcoin, it doesn't matter, right? Yeah. And I think really the circular economy is really key. But yeah, building a circular economy in places where, I guess in Canada, everybody or most people have a bank account, like, payment system typically works great. There is not too much friction. And so it takes more education maybe to have someone see the value of Bitcoin as a payment system versus in a place where people use cash, but the reason they use cash is just because the bank don't run their business. Mm-hmm. And there is an appealing value proposition to Bitcoin in a lot of emerging countries. So yeah, I'm really looking to where it's going. I think it's an interesting development, and I wish there would be more of that type of development in Canada, in Europe, in the US. Yeah. I think it's very needed.
Yeah, I hope to see more of it, and I hope maybe through, again, you're right, like in a Western country, it's almost a little bit more difficult to convince people to try and experiment like this, right? It's the hardcore Bitcoiners that are going to do it first. And it's way more difficult to convince your average person who's still, sleepwalking through fiat land and, using PayPal and Venmo and they've got their debit card and whatever on their Visa. They're not super keen to bother trying anything because as far as they know, the system is kind of working for them, even though it's broken as hell. They're still just sleepwalking through it. So it is more difficult, I think, to do it here because people still feel they have something to lose by trying. But I think this is where Bitcoiners have gone wrong in the past. We've taken so much time trying to convince people that don't give a shit about Bitcoin to accept Bitcoin. And when now I feel like we've hit a threshold where there's enough of us where we can build that economy ourselves amongst ourselves. And then people can come to it when they're ready, when they see it, when they get it. We can still go and orange pill people. But, there's enough people going to meetups that are excited about Bitcoin that would be more than happy to earn some Bitcoin that we've got enough here. Let's work together and just make it happen. So yeah. British, I am curious about your thoughts in and around that as well. So where are you at with this whole circular economy thing? What do you think?
So first things first, I think that the intention with which you are setting this up is great, right? It is you are already spending money on X. Why not spend it with someone who actually understands Bitcoin? I think that part is absolutely great. The part where it differs from my message and the purpose of why I even started a YouTube channel is I'm talking to people like my parents, right? There's immigrants to the United Kingdom, spent 35 years doing the right thing, quote unquote, working hard, saving up, buying properties to try and look after their two sons, only to find out that the properties need to be worth 70% more than they are today because of the amount of pounds printed. So I like the idea of what you're doing. I think it makes a lot of sense. I would say it's much more important for people to actually get to one Bitcoin first if they're not there yet. And then anything past that can turn into, you spend your Bitcoin or you help people out. But I think the premise of a circular economy has to come, if you're going to do it the way that you are doing it, which I think is great, has to be a spend and replace perspective. I don't think anyone should be taking a stack and trying to high five some what I like to call happy hippies just to feel like they're taking part in some community before they've gotten to one Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think what you hit on there is correct in that this living, let's say living on a Bitcoin standard, it only is feasible and it only works when you've already got good fiscal habits for yourself, when you're already spending less than you earn and you're already saving the excess in Bitcoin. Because for myself, if I'm earning Bitcoin, but I'm spending more than I earn every single month, and at the end of the day, I have no Bitcoin, right? And so for people maybe in countries where it's, saving is pretty much not possible based on opportunities that are present. Like if you're in a third world country and you're barely able to transact, then you may be coming to Bitcoin for entirely different reasons in that
Agreed.
you just can't transact, and you can't transact on a global level. You really can't do anything. And so then it might, then Bitcoin is something very different to you than something what it is to somebody in a Western country. But as somebody from a Western country, I think the idea, of what you're preaching of you need to save your excess. You need to save that in something that won't disappear. You need to actually save it in the soundest money that humanity has ever seen. And if you take that extra step of going onto a Bitcoin standard or a quasi Bitcoin standard, or in my opinion, you can't be more bullish than being entirely on a Bitcoin standard, because then there's no opportunity cost, because your entire income is Bitcoin. It's like you couldn't go, and then every expenditure from then on in is a conscious decision of, do I want to exchange these sats for this thing? And if it's trinkety bullshit, you're not going to do it.
Yeah, like I don't agree with, going to places and buying pieces of shit art that you don't really want, right? Like just to take part in the community. I don't think that's smart, especially if by the way, get to 1 Bitcoin, then do whatever the hell you want to do, right? So you get to 1 Bitcoin, then you want to hire a boat in Miami and put strippers on it and whatever, you go do that, as long as that 1 Bitcoin is safe and secure.
Let me know when that boat ports.
But my point is that, get to 1 Bitcoin first. Like let's stop all this happy hippie horse shit. Like get to 1 Bitcoin. That's the one thing that's gonna matter. But I love the way that you're doing it. You're talking about buying things you're already gonna buy, right? And then I'm assuming you're a proponent of the spend and replace. So you're not actually. The one question that I do have about that is what happens to the tax liability? Because the people that I talk to will be concerned about that, right? They're not $10 a month DCA gang, as I like to call them. Like these people are have a lot of Bitcoin, and they're worried about, every single time I transact with it, I now need to log a capital gain against that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's something to discuss with an accountant. I won't go any further than that.
Real quick, Ben. Well, we got you on the spot here. In terms of some questions about how you went about this. I know a lot of people get nervous about taking action. The idea of failure in the background. I think you've probably progressed against this in the past, and had just amazing wins. But for the common person who's out there that is looking at this going, boy, actually Ben, he dove off the deep end, and he started to try to network and organize something. And I don't know what your past is and being able to do that or having done that, but organizing a market of people coming together to have something like this circular economy with Bitcoin. How did you go about it, and why do you think it is being met with such success? I think is the question.
Well, I don't say it's successful yet, because it hasn't happened. I can guarantee you it will not go 100% smoothly. There's going to be obviously problems. And I think that was kind of coming into it. I had to just commit to the fact that I'm going to fuck some things up. There's going to be a few things that go wrong. But again, I was saying this, I was in spaces earlier, and I was saying how there's a good phrase that I've heard thrown around when it comes to self-custody and stuff like that, and where people don't take action. And it's where you get into analysis paralysis, where you overanalyze all of the different options, and it seems so overwhelming that you do nothing. And so I kind of applied that to this, and I was like, well, I could sit around and and haw over every single little logistic and then do nothing because I'm too worried, or I can just toss it out there, hopefully get some people that are interested, and then really start to get everything, the amount of support that I've had in terms of people just willing to volunteer their time to make it happen has been overwhelming. And I think, I obviously there's an advantage of, having like a YouTube channel that people have been using to educate themselves on various things for a number of years. But I think even still, you can still start locally on a smaller scale and build to that point. You can still, meet local people. As I said, have your local meetup and start with those basic steps of saying, hey, I'm looking for the following thing and I'm willing to pay in Bitcoin. And then going from there. And then when it seems like, okay, we got a group of people, maybe you just do a small thing, in a small location, and just, have fun. The other thing that I think you can do is you can also, because there's a lot of people that are just Bitcoiners that don't realize it yet. And some of those people are people that love cash transactions. And so if you were to have a market that was Bitcoin and cash, then, there's going to be people, especially if you're in a place that has foot traffic, and you have a sign that says, farmer's market, cash and Bitcoin only. People, a bunch of people will have cash. They're like, great. And they'll come in and then they'll go, holy shit, every single one of these people accepts Bitcoin. And then that's touch point number one. They get curious. And that's all you need, right? It's the same mentality, the same idea of, I don't need somebody giving me permission or telling me no or monitoring every single thing I do whenever I buy a carton of eggs. Though that same mentality will permeate through the different groups. And I think a lot of those, oh, I love cash markets people will realize, oh, Bitcoin's like, it's kind of like cash. I can just, I own it. I have it. Nobody can tell me no when I'm using cash, all those types of things. So I think you can find people that from a values perspective are tangential to Bitcoin. And then you can perhaps bring them in as well if you don't currently have a subset of Bitcoiners. And then just teach the people that are there. My goal here, like my barber, he's not super well versed with Bitcoin, but I basically said like every person there needs to be able to accept Bitcoin, which I'll show you how to do. But at the end of the day, if you don't want Bitcoin, myself or any other person there is going to be more than happy to trade their cash for any Bitcoin that you made at the end of the day. And so then all of a sudden you also create a peer-to-peer cash to Bitcoin market. So you've kind of killed two birds with one stone. So that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Maybe one follow-up question to that is, have you had anybody that's reached out because you've done this, that's coming to the Saturday market, said just wildly excited about the fact that you're doing this? Can you share that?
I've got a handful of emails, and I've literally, like, even while we've been sitting on this call, I've got from Spaces earlier some DMs sitting here being like, "Hey, I'm so excited that you're doing this, and I'm gonna come down. How can I help? I'm at your disposal. I'm stoked to throw in whatever you need." I think a lot of Bitcoiners were just kind of waiting for it to materialize by itself. And so I guess the message here today is it won't. You need to do it. So go do it.
I have a question. And I guess, who knows where the fees will be in a month,
Yes.
in the mempool. But do you think you will be using custodial wallet or non-custodial wallet? I mean, I presume it will be Lightning, only or only Lightning. How do you think about it?
So by default, I'm gonna get people. I want to get people set up on kind of two options in terms of Lightning wallets. So in the non-custodial realm, because there's a baked-in point of sale, I'll probably set them up on Breeze and just say, oh, you can have like a little terminal here, and it's that's easy. Of course, like on-chain fees are going to be all over the place, and so that's going to take some. Hey, just so you know, like, and I'll have to gauge it closer too for the people that are unfamiliar, and say like, hey, if you're accepting via Breeze, the first transaction might be like, you got a channel setup fee and everything like that. And I just tend to refer to it as there's a connection fee, and then after that, it'll be regular Lightning transactions, unless you run out. I try not to overcomplicate it, but I just say like, hey, a channel of liquidity or a channel of Bitcoin is open to you, and then you can use that. The other thing that I'll probably do is have if people just don't want to deal with it, and then especially if they're not keeping the Bitcoin afterwards, if they're not at that level yet, then yeah, whatever, like a custodial option, and then they're going to be transferring it to somebody's custodial Lightning wallet afterwards and getting cash for it. So it may be a mix of both depending on where the person's at. If they're going to get their first transaction and $10 of it's going to be scraped away, and that's going to be their first foray into Bitcoin, that's probably not ideal. So the answer is we will see where we're at, in and around the 10th, 12th of December, and I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mempool will decide.
Yes, we'll see. But yeah, like ideally self-custodial Lightning. And then with some exceptions, I'll kind of explain the trade-offs with each. Because I'm going to do a training session with anybody who wants to learn how to accept Bitcoin before the market. So,
I actually
Jen,
really like that point, the point that you made, which is if a business person who's selling at that event then needs to exchange that into cash, somebody at the event can actually do it, because there is nothing, Ben, that infuriates me more than paying someone in Bitcoin knowing they're going to convert it into fiat.
yes.
That infuriates the shit out of me. I would rather just give you the fiat. Why would I give you a stamp on the network that I gave my Bitcoin to a traitor? Why would I do that? I'll just give you the fiat. So I really love that part of it.
Yeah, fair enough. Awesome. All right, gents, I want to put a bow on this topic and move on. Sorry I took up so much time on it, as I'm super passionate about it, but nonetheless, we're going to do a rotation, and I'm going to toss it over to Shane. And Shane, I'm going to cue you up with the question everyone gets. Why are you bullish? Take it away.
Boy, God, there's so many reasons out there. I got to say, I've got a few thousand of them right now, and they all circle around this Bitcoin Veterans podcast that we started. Myself, Alex Stanzik got together. I've known Alex for a while now. Obviously, I work with Alex over at Swan, but a lot of people don't really realize, I guess, that both Alex and I are veterans. And when we started talking behind the scenes, there's a lot of stuff going on. He's running things like the shooting ranges at some of the Miami conferences down there, getting some people involved. I was lucky enough this year to go out there and be part of the cadre, the instructors, with my background. And so to see it unfolding, to see it happening, to see the networking and what it is as an offshoot. We had been talking for a while about some things. I run this thing called Brave. It's a post-traumatic experience for, it started as, for veterans, but now it's grown into something bigger than that. He's very spun up on training people in terms of the way of firearms and how to safely employ them and keep them in your own house and your life. And so we were talking behind the scenes, and we both agree that the veterans market in terms of Bitcoin was completely missing. We just really hadn't seen this force come out that was really serving it, that was talking to it, and we kind of just more and more behind the scenes started plotting. And I said, maybe a show, maybe something to start galvanizing this, to put a forefront on it. And sure enough, in July of this year, we launched the first show of Bitcoin Veterans. It's real simple. It's like I say in the intro, is like, we're Bitcoiners, we're veterans. This is not hard. But what it does in terms of coming together and bringing guys, like, you got to understand, in America alone, there's 16 plus million veterans out there. And that is a giant network. Now start to, cross-pollinate with all the other veterans that are around the world, especially, the guys that we know firsthand from, this terrible thing that we've been doing for the last 20 plus years around the world in terms of imperialism. And we've met a lot of each other. We know who we are, whether it's in America, we know Canada, we know the British, we know everybody in the NATO countries. We know a lot of people in the Middle East and Australia, just all around the world. You've got this very tight network of guys that have seen some things, that know some things, that understand firsthand just how terrible the state is and what their mission is, right? Their mission is perpetual war. So to be guys that have seen that firsthand, that can come together, can speak intelligently to it, and at the same time propose some solutions is incredibly powerful. But I think the most powerful thing about this is there's something that I don't think a lot of people really understand about veterans in general. Like, what does it mean to go out and sign your name to a dotted line and in a contract to say, hey, listen, you can take everything up into my life. My rights are gone. My time is gone. It is yours for the state. And the reason that people do that, and what perpetuated, like for myself, is there was this love. It was a love for our fellow man. It was this understanding that there are some people that cannot stand up for themselves. There are people that need to stand up for others. There are people that are well equipped to do this, and it's just something that I think in the core being that despite the indoctrination, which I'll get to in a minute, but because you were, I think, just born with this innate sense to protect, and that's kind of, I think what's been attacked and what's missing in a lot of modern culture is this masculinity, this thing that is frowned on by a lot of statists, a lot of progressives and things like that, where these guys have this love for their fellow man to the point where in woman that they would lay down their lives for those. And that self-sovereignty, the freedom, the justice that a lot of us, especially here in America, were indoctrinated with, and then it was twisted and perverted, is now come full circle for these guys. And in a time where you've got 22 suicides a day here in America for veterans, it paints this picture of a very nihilistic world. This, hey, we're going to have to fight our way out of this. We're going to have to fight our way back into some grace and some freedom. This gives all of these guys a passion and a mission and some sense of purpose for the first time since maybe leaving the service, maybe a lot of them that are still in. And so now that we've stood this up, we're 21 episodes in. The last episode we had Corey Clipston come on, the CEO of Swan. And then before that, Preston Pish, another veteran, and we've had Randy Kelly and just all these amazing veterans come into the show, start sharing their stories and share their Bitcoin stories as well, to show people exactly what Bitcoin can do in terms of giving you mission, in terms of giving you purpose for your fellow man again, taking that that idea that maybe got perverted and twisted and very manipulated, possibly to the point where you'd kind of give it up, and pulling these guys back from the brink, to be able to pull those guys back from the brink and then set them on another course and another mission that we as I guess 30, 40, 20-year-olds, whatever we are, we're not going to see the full ramifications of Bitcoin. We're going to die somewhere along the line. But to get this started, to be a part of these what I consider like quote unquote founding fathers, this is a point where it is just, I don't know, it's gotten to the point now where we are growing and there's been this matchbox that's lit behind it. We've got I don't know, we've got the Northeast, we've got the Southeast, we've got the Midwest, we've got the Northwest, we've got the West Coast. Now we've got worldwide, in terms of different groups of veterans that have come into this movement. And what's sprung out of it has just been absolutely amazing. First and foremost, it's decentralized. It's just like Bitcoin, obviously. These guys have different skills, different tasks. They understand how to move not only goods and services, but people around the world. When you talk about, how we're organized within the U.S. military, there's admin, there's intel, there's operations, there's logistics, there's future planning, there's training, there's all of these different aspects of it. And, without going into great detail, like the numbers have swelled so much within 21 weeks of doing this that we've had to start to branch into other groups. And with that, we've had a number of 501c3s for anybody that's not in America. Those are charitable organizations that are being stood up. So we have organizations within Bitcoin veterans that are standing up. There is Operation Bitcoin, which Gabe, one of our hosts, and has created. And Operation Bitcoin is a skill bridge type of movement where guys who are either in or our veterans can get trained in Bitcoin, can get trained in different areas of the Bitcoin industry, and then serve their first 6 months with some aid to go out there and learn. Corey came out just this Wednesday and said, hey, listen, we're going to sponsor Operation Bitcoin. So big shout out to Gabe and Operation Bitcoin for starting that. It's a great transition for guys out there. I obviously host Brave. Brave's another 501c3 where we're getting guys the help that they need in terms of kind of correcting, some of the post-traumatic stress that we have, learning how to not only deal with it, but live with it, mature with it throughout their lives, and then obviously be good stewards and leaders within their communities after they get done with this. And there's, obviously some stuff that we do out here. We call it 10,000 hours of therapy and about 6 hours with some cutting edge medical practices. Then we've got the Warrior Project, which Alex is heading up, and that's all about training guys with firearms. And Mike Hobart is putting together the security side of this. So as we grow and we go through halvings and Bitcoin has more purchasing power, you've got a lot of these guys that are reinvesting and looking at how are we going to protect each other when we are close in proximity at conferences, at networks. How are we going to do this in a decentralized fashion, but at the same time provide absolutely, I say deadly, reaction time for anybody that would try to come into a space and disrupt it with, violence. So when I say we've got, a million things going on in the background and how this thing is growing and exploding, like we're white knuckle right now. It's like grabbing a Mustang out in the middle of a prairie and holding on for dear life as this thing is starting to move, and then organizing it, more as a rudder, more than that force grip, and just letting these guys do what they do. And this has just been something that I've been, just tickled to death with, to see the reception of it, to see the energy behind it, the fact that we've already tapped into this network and got things going. So to see this being adopted, to see the network not only expand and grow and infiltrate other networks that are out there in the best, most peaceful way possible, to see that coming to the Bitcoin space with the fervor and the ferocity, the spirit of a true warrior, to see this coming, boy, it's one of those things that stirs you. It's something to be, it's not only, bullish on, but proud of at the end of the day. And, hats off to everybody who's in the Bitcoin community. I know, a lot of what we talk about on the veteran side is kind of glamorous, and, it gets movies and stuff made. What doesn't get talked about a lot is the guys that are putting in the long hours in terms of coding, in terms of putting together networks and things that, are way above our heads. What we want to do is make sure that you guys are not only safe doing that, we want to make sure that you've got a protected, space and network amongst the citadels and everything else we're setting up. So am I bullish on Bitcoin? Yeah, for a ton of reasons, just within the Bitcoin veterans community alone. But as it expands into the rest of Bitcoin, I am super bullish.
I love it, man. I don't want to tag in too much because I want the other gents to be able to comment, but I just want to say one thing I think is super poetic is you're a group of guys that were thrust into this system, like you said, that propagates perpetual war. And now the same group of guys is now championing a system that basically financially and peacefully prevents a system of perpetual war continuing to exist. So I think that's a unique perspective of it. You can't fund war forever if you can't print money and extort your populace unbeknownst to them. And that's what Bitcoin gives us if we were to get on a Bitcoin standard. So let's go do that. Gentlemen, I'm going to let you guys pipe in here. Whoever wants to dive in, Nicolas or British, whoever.
Yeah, like one of the, I think that's amazing. It's the first time I've heard about this, the project that you're working on. I think that's phenomenal. One of the things that really pisses me off about my country is the way that we treat our military vets, and we don't have the same pride and the public pride that you guys have in America. But we have, some of the stories that I hear. I've got a couple friends that used to be ex-special forces in the UK, and the type of stories that I hear about, these guys are lucky they've made it out, they've made a transition, and they've moved on with their careers, et cetera, et cetera. The amount of guys that have done things to protect people that didn't even know that they were being protected, and now they end up either homeless or sleeping on families' couches and this, that, and the other. It's absolutely sickening. And I wish, if only that they knew that there is Bitcoin out there, and whenever they send their paycheck home, somebody can squirrel a little bit away into Bitcoin, and it's something that's independent of the system itself. You know, one of the stories, I don't know whether you guys know this, but the Iranian embassy in London there was a siege on there, right? This was back in the late 80s, 90s, and basically a bunch of terrorists walked in, captured everyone, and were refusing to let people out. They finally shot someone, and then the prime minister at the time, Margaret Thatcher, gave the sign for our special forces to deal with that. They went in, they killed every single person inside of 10 minutes that was causing a problem. On the way out, one of the terrorists came out, found his way out with people, right? And they were about to shoot him, but there was cameras, so they couldn't do that. Today, the special forces operator who went in there to deal with this situation, almost shot this guy, is struggling to get a home to live in from the government, and the terrorist has done his time in the United Kingdom, has a government-funded house, and lives on welfare. That pisses me off to a level that I don't really talk about my patriotism too much, but you know, I absolutely support our special forces and our military and everything else that they're doing. I'm not stupid enough to think that my ability to sit in London somewhere cozy, smoking a cigar, doesn't come from someone laying in a ditch waiting to do something that I wouldn't be able to do. Right? I think there is. So I'm very, very happy to hear that, and I'd love to support it in any way that I can. So let me know.
Awesome. That's cool. Nicolas, I'd love to get your, any thoughts, anything you want to toss in here.
Yeah, first thing Shane said that surprised me is that there is 50 million veterans in the United States. Like that's 20% of the population, or that seems to be a. Did I understood correctly? That sounds to be a completely.
I think he said
crazy
15 or 16 million.
16.
Oh, 16. Okay, so it's like 5%. Okay, 5% of the population. Okay, that's
a lot.
That's a lot.
A lot.
Yeah. Wow. I think that's a fantastic initiative. Yeah, I want to listen to some episode. I'm hearing about this for the first time.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing that related to me is I remember attending Bit Block Boom in 2020 that was in Houston at the time. And like doing a conference in 2020, there was not so many people there. I guess summer 2020, but like a lot of the guys there was like ex-military, and I remember there were some of the most passionate people, and I discussed with a couple of veterans, and it seems the more horror stories they had, the more they were into Bitcoin. So I guess it's correlates very well with what you're saying, is that this is probably a population prime to Bitcoin adoption for sure.
Yeah, man. It's interesting. As I was seeing in the chat here, I'm losing the message now, but somebody was saying how it's crazy how Bitcoin is so many different things to so many people and appeals to groups that you would never. There we go. Here it is. Also, what a great username. Can we just recognize food and material for a second? But nonetheless, Bitcoin is wild. It means so many different things to so many different people of all ages, races, nationalities, etc. How can one not be moved by the unity of trying to make a better future? And for somebody with the username of Poot in the cereal, he can be very well spoken. So thanks for that.
Very welcome.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Shane, I love this. Again, it's such a cool group of people, and like all the people in there are awesome too. Like I watched the veterans panel at Pacific, and it was a blast. And Mike wasn't there, but I met him, and he's awesome. And yeah, man, keep doing it. Keep doing what you're doing, because I think it brings a lot of value to a lot of people.
Yeah. And real quick, real special, if you guys don't know the guys out there, Mike Hobart, Alex Stanzik, Jordan Gambrell and Gabe Lord, those guys are, kind of the guys that, we hand selected and got together and picked for this for a lot of reasons, but they are movers, they're shakers. Find them on. If you're out there in Bitcoin, you probably know who most of these guys are. Operation Libertas is the only one. That's Jordan. So if you want to go out there and follow those guys, they've got some great content. BT or Bitcoin Veterans on Twitter is where you can find those guys. And yeah, we appreciate all the help we can get, and we're looking at really helping you guys out too. So this is it's an amazing give take type of relationship out there.
Awesome. Well, that's great. And again, anybody that's interested, all these guys, their Twitter handles are in the show notes, and you can find everything that they're doing from there. But yeah, I think what an awesome topic. I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm going to put a bow on this one so that we can get to everybody's topic. I'm going to toss it over to Nicolas, and same question goes to you, man. Why are you bullish? Take it away.
So many reasons. As I just said in the introduction, we did a conference last week called Adopting Bitcoin, and there was a couple of things that came out of the conference. The first one is I see someone in the chat, G2O, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, living in Berlin currently. I want to touch on this quickly. So, and I guess it's related to your story sessions about creating local circular economy. So Berlin, El Salvador, not Berlin, Germany, is a town in El Salvador. It's a small town in the mountain. It has very different characteristics that maybe Bitcoin Beach that more people know, or San Salvador, which is a capital city. It's a town of about 25,000 people. It's like 1 hour from the coast. It's in altitude, so the temperature is much cooler than it is from the sea. And the project of creating a local circular economy there was created a couple of months ago. And now it's literally exploding. There is more than 80 merchants in the area that accept Bitcoin out of, I don't know, 150 or something. So like in a couple of months now, half of the city half of the merchants are on a Bitcoin, accepting Bitcoin. I would not say they're in a stage where it's Bitcoin preferred yet. For a lot of them, it's Bitcoin accepted. And, there is Bitcoin accepted, Bitcoin preferred, and then Bitcoin only, right? That type of steps. But I think what's very interesting to me is the speed at which now this type of initiative are going. We're talking about a few months to go from zero to having a couple of Bitcoiners, go there and saying like, what, it might be a good place to start something here. And, now there is about 15 Bitcoiners that move there, like from, foreigner that move to this place. And this place is attracting a lot of, people that want to live on the Bitcoin standard. And I think this is a self-fulfilling prophecy. And yeah, I'm actually very bullish about that. So I guess that's one of the reasons I'm bullish. And at the conference, that was a project where everybody was talking about. And there is on Twitter, there was a chart a couple of months ago where I guess Andrew on our team makes this chart where there's like about 40 or 50 Bitcoin circular economies. It was just like making a whipper.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about this project in Berlin was a project that everyone was talking about at the conference.
Yeah,
and it was not on this board because this board was created like over the summer, and the project was not even under the radar this time. And so seeing that in a couple of months, you can see such a high adoption in a city out of nowhere, I think for me is very appealing.
I love that. Like how you said it 2 months, like a few months, and it's just half the city, half the town.
Yeah, half the merchant. I mean, to be fair, half the merchant doesn't mean it's half of the town, because now you have to also convert the people that are not merchants, and it takes a bit more time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're talking about the project starts over the summer basically, and now we are entering the winter, and it's almost like half of it. And maybe it would be one of the places where 100% of the merchant in 6 months accept Bitcoin, like next year. So that's one reason. But that was an apartheid. I think the main reason that we're bullish. We did an announcement last week that actually is a reflection of the fact that we try to onboard in El Salvador for the last 2 years merchants to Bitcoin all over the country, and it's not easy. The main challenge is, like, if we look back, El Salvador as adopting Bitcoin as to some extent the worst time ever. It was Q4 2021. It was at the time Bitcoin was at 60K. And this is why, Bukele said, okay, we're going on the, adding Bitcoin as a legal tender. And so a lot of the experience that merchants have had with Bitcoin is, okay, I get some Bitcoin maybe from Bitcoiner, or I bought some Bitcoin at this time and actually lose money. So that's one of the issues that we are seeing, is that the adoption 2 years ago, and the adoption today, like, it had not materially improved. And so we have interviewed many merchants to try to understand, okay, why are you not accepting Bitcoin? What's the hurdle? And beyond the price dropping, because they are being onboarded as a, when it was all-time high, and from here, they've seen the savings that deteriorate. Another reason is that they say, like, okay, look, if I'm having let's say I'm a small Chenda. Chenda is a small merchant, like on a corner shop, and I'm receiving, I don't know, $2,000 per month. Let's say, to keep it simple, and let's say 2% of 80%, 98% is in cash, 2% is in Bitcoin. Now I'm having like $40 per month, and the rate is that I cannot save those $40. I mean, some may, but so it is most, they don't have the financial capacity to be able to save those Bitcoin. And so what they need to do is, okay, I need to cash it out, and so that I can pay my bill, I can pay my supplier. And it's creating for them more friction to accept Bitcoin versus not accepting Bitcoin, because it's such a small percentage that they say, okay, I need to go to the ATM, maybe I need to pay an on-chain transaction, maybe the ATM doesn't work, maybe it's out of cash. Like, so you know what, after a few months, I'm like, my life would be easier if I stop accepting Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
And so we really reflected on that, and we said, I mean, if we want to create a circular economy, we need to go to the next step, which is like, it's good to have those merchants accept Bitcoin, right? It's really step one, it is what you're doing. But now you need to go, those merchants need to pay the supplier in Bitcoin. Like, this is the next step to create this circular economy. And so we have been able to work with a distributor called Distributor Amorasan, which is a second distributor in El Salvador, to actually accept Bitcoin. And now this distributor is onboarding the merchants I work with to receive payment in Bitcoin. And it's a distributor which has more than 40,000 merchants in El Salvador and Guatemala. And now they're saying, okay, so imagine if you have 40,000 merchants, physical location, you need to collect cash on those 40,000 location, which is costing also a lot of money. So it's also a pain point, right? Mm-hmm. And so we approach them by saying, you know what, like, if you work with the merchants and they accept Bitcoin over Lightning, and know they can use digital payment, we can help your P&L, right? You can help increase your profit, because you will not need to visit all those locations every week, right? And there is about, I think, 150 people that are dedicated to collecting cash. So like, it's costing us a lot of, a day, a lot of money. And it needs to be, I think, armor vehicle and all that. Like, it's costing significant. It's a significant line in their P&L. And so now they want to incentivize merchants to accept Bitcoin. This distributor actually want to give a discount to the Tienda is they pay in Bitcoin because they understand that, look, it will make their operation, more profitable. And so we're doing actually in Berlin, but also in San Salvador and in a few other places. Right now we're experimenting, but the distributor is giving 5% discount if you pay in Bitcoin versus 0 if you pay in cash, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know it's becoming like this Bitcoin accepted here to Bitcoin preferred, because now, like, you know what, like if I get to acquire Bitcoin over the months and I can pay my bill in Bitcoin, I get a discount for that. And it's better to get Bitcoin, right, versus cash. And so I think this is such a bullish initiative. I'm very excited about this. We'll see where this goes over the next year. Like we just started, a couple of months ago, but I think this is a great step for Bitcoin adoption in El Salvador.
Yeah, I love the breakdown of Bitcoin accepted, Bitcoin preferred, Bitcoin only. I like that. And I also, again, like the point that you drove home around, at the end of the day, if this is their method of being able to accept digital payments, that also allows them, if they prefer to be in dollars, and that still gives them that, they still get to use the network, and then gradually understand maybe that long-term Bitcoin is a good savings mechanism if they can do that. If it's cutting down on their costs as is, then I mean that's a wonderful thing in and of itself. Like I think what we may see, even just globally in general, is that people will want to incentivize others to pay them in Bitcoin first. That'll probably be the first thing that you see in general, where people say Bitcoin preferred. And they may even say, 5% discount if you pay in Bitcoin, 10% Bitcoin discount. You may get instances like that, and even I just did that the other day. So like when I booked my one-on-one sessions with people, I bumped up my PayPal charge because PayPal scrapes away a whole bunch of money every time I get paid. So I was like, all right, well, I'll up my fee whenever I accept fiat. And then if you're going to pay me in Bitcoin, it'll be reduced by X percent. I think we'll probably see that more gradually as people kind of understand some of the benefits there. But I'm curious to get your thoughts in and around this as well.
Yeah, I think that adoption growing is extremely important, and I'm proud to see the work. It's not the main message that I focus on because it's not the audience that I'm speaking to, but I love the work that's going on to allow more people to seamlessly integrate Bitcoin into their business operations and everything that they're doing. I said this on a YouTube video that, rich people need Bitcoin more than poor people, but poor people need Bitcoin adoption more than rich people. And I think that's what people are doing and spending their life and their time on. And what's more better than that? That's the beautiful thing about Bitcoin, right? You can come from any perspective that you're in, and you can add value to what Bitcoin is. It's absolutely magical. And I highly commend everyone who is working to help more people utilize Bitcoin as a transaction tool, because it then breaks them free. Well, forget breaks them free. As a capitalist, it puts people into the capitalist economy, right? People that didn't have a chance to scale their capitalism, it allows them to have a fully scalable capitalist opportunity in the world. And there's nothing better than giving someone the opportunity to make something of their life. And that's what, Nicolas is doing and what everyone else is doing. And I think it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. And you're right. Bitcoin is a lot of different things to different people. And I just wanted to address one thing that I saw in the chat. Somebody said, stop using PayPal as soon as possible. Believe me, it's not by choice. It's literally the only, because I get a lot of people that are very new to Bitcoin to the point where they don't even know how to send it yet. And so when I get those people, if they're not in Canada, there's no easy way to accept payment from them. And yeah, at the end of the day, who knows? Like I never leave money in PayPal. Like it's in and it's out immediately. So no, PayPal will never get a dime of my money other than perhaps one payment one time, and then they'll never be used again. So yeah, don't worry. I'm sure they'll get me at some point. I'll say something about central banks, and that will be it for me. I'll be cut off. But nonetheless, yes, PayPal sucks. With that, Shane, I'm curious your thoughts here as well.
Yeah, this upgrade in the human species communication protocol is one of those things that I always love seeing how it gets applied in different ways. This incentive structure, this positive incentive structure that is reinforced in the Bitcoin community is one of those things where, Nicolas, when you were talking about incentivizing people to use Bitcoin over fiat and to stop with the old rails and get into something that is newer for them, and you're cutting down on something that I think is very hard for a lot of people to wrap their minds around, and it's a friction point. Is if you guys are removing friction points through a positive incentive structure, this is something that goes a long way in terms of building community at your local level, like Ben's doing up in Calgary. Like to be able to have this all taking place and to see how it works and how, especially you guys that are coding a lot of this, this incentive structure, if you just kind of lean into what Bitcoin is and you start to really understand, like, look, there is a positive incentive structure. How are we going to apply this at a market or in our own lives? You start to see how you're doing this, and just an amazing job, going into this market that is El Salvador. And if anybody's really looking at how amazing it is, you look at Bukele's running for re-election again, right? Like he's running for re-election. And the fact that his country is doing as well as it is because of guys like Nicolas, guys that are going out there and cutting down on the friction, helping adoption, helping people to actually use this in a practical way within their local communities. There's nothing that can be, there's nothing more important than this kind of work. Because what you're doing is you're taking, these people who were unbanked, these people who were subject to this fiat standard, especially, being wrecked by American, money printing, and you're writing that for the first time in our history as here in the States, but really as the first time as a global community, you're able to right the ship by just cutting down on friction points in a positive incentive structure that is the basic human protocol for communication. That is an amazing thing to be able to say, is like, Bukele and El Salvador is being more and more successful because of what you were doing and adding to this. And that means, yes, the country's great, and the fact that they've adopted Bitcoin and they're moving along, but really the touch point is those people who are for the first time not thinking about fleeing a country, that are not worried about the gangs and the violence that was there, and the people that are repatriating the first time for a long time, that people from El Salvador are coming back to El Salvador and saying, listen, my future is brighter here than anywhere else, and I can do more things because of people like Nicolas that are creating a much easier way to transact in Bitcoin. So, man, bravo, Nicolas. Just amazing job.
Indeed.
Thanks. I just want to take a minute to respond to BritishHODL about. I know that in the UK, it's payment is not something that you may be thinking too much about. But the reason I think it's quite important, if you think about the game theory about Bitcoin, and BTC touch about this with Swan, right? Like, and the idea of, okay, in the US, for instance, it seems that if you want to use Bitcoin in some ways, like, the bank will not be happy about it. What you see is that, they, at some point, not today, I mean, at least not in a very frontal way, maybe it's subtle, right? But there is the idea that, hey, this on-ramp maybe closing door, right? And maybe the off-ramp also. And what this means is that if you have no way to being on-ramp and off-ramp, but if you have a way to use Bitcoin, it doesn't matter, right? Like you can just, like if you're living in a country where you can just pay everything in Bitcoin, you don't need us on-ramp and off-ramp, right? And building this payment system really make it that Bitcoin can live its own life, even if at some point there is the place where you can buy Bitcoin or the place you can buy sell Bitcoin are no longer available. And I think it's very important to understand how, and I know it's a meme to some extent, but the fact that you can buy Bitcoin with a coffee make Bitcoin stronger, right? Because if a lot of people can buy Bitcoin, can pay coffee with Bitcoin or do stuff with their Bitcoin, it makes Bitcoin stronger. And I think it's something that is very not very well understood for people that focus solely on the number go up. Not to say it's not important. I think it's key, and it's how you get a lot of people, especially in Europe, in Americas, to get into Bitcoin. Number go up is the way you get started. The way you get much more interested. But the use Bitcoin is equally important if you really think through the game theory.
Yeah, I mean, I see your point. It's just, with a country like the United Kingdom, Canada, the USA, et cetera, everything you're saying makes sense in a country like El Salvador, where they've basically passed a law to state that there's no transaction cost, i.e. a tax, on Bitcoin. But in the United Kingdom, until you remove the tax on Bitcoin, there is no incentive to use it as a transaction tool, because you have a tax liability every single time you use it. So while it makes sense for certain small countries like El Salvador to do that, it absolutely makes zero sense for anyone in the United Kingdom to do that. The cost of accounting for it will surpass the benefit and the feel good that you get from transacting with it. While I agree, every transaction that happens on Bitcoin makes Bitcoin stronger, from my perspective, for the majority of the world majority of the developed world where we're at the store of value point right now. Once we surpass the store of value point, we will then get to a point where a big G20 nation will turn around and say, okay, we're going to remove the taxes from Bitcoin. And at that point, you start turning it into a transaction tool, and it can catch on fire. But up until now, I mean, what's El Salvador's economy? It's great. It's a great project. But you have to remember, the US dollar is still the reserve currency of El Salvador. Bitcoin you can spend Bitcoin referenced in US dollars. Right? You're not referencing it in Satoshis. That's extremely important to remember from a financial world perspective. So when El Salvador turns around and takes it to the next level, that will be an important step, because that will be the real proof point that can you actually break away from the US dollar system or not. And then secondly, when a G20 country removes the taxes on Bitcoin to be able to use it as a transaction tool, that'll happen then, right? Up until then, it's amazing. It's unbelievable what's going on in El Salvador, but a lot more things have to happen for it to be for that work that you guys are doing, which is so important, to be relevant and catch on fire everywhere else in the world.
The thing that I would love to see happen is if somebody were to do those podcasting apps where you stream sats and you listen and you literally pay X number of sats per minute, and just have if there's some accounting software that will track all of that, and the tiny fractions of a penny that you're spending every single time listening to a podcast, so that you're not getting totally screwed on it or anything, but then print it and send that in, and then they can deal with the paperwork if that's how stingy they want to get with it. Give them some extra paperwork to deal with in the meantime. I think that'd be fun.
And that would be hilarious. It's unfortunate that we're actually going to get AI tools like the Inland Revenue in the United Kingdom is now working to a point where they've got AI tools to figure out your taxes. That's why I don't live in the UK, right? It doesn't make sense. As a UK citizen, I'm taxed on my residency, not on my citizenship. Just like as in Canada, right? Unlike, sorry, Shane, for the Americans out there, you're taxed on your passport, unfortunately. But yeah, all of these tools are coming out. It's going to get tougher and tougher.
Yeah. It's Shane. I got to say, it's a little crazy that Uncle Sam will follow you guys to the ends of the earth. To scrape away a little bit of taxes. You're like one of the only two. I think there's 2 nations on earth that will do that.
They've become the wild girlfriend, right? And that's the thing is they're desperate, and I think that's another case to be bullish. I'm not going to monopolize any more time, but it's one of those things where when you see absolutely just how flawed this damn system is, especially here in America that has the reserve currency of the world, it's imploding, by the way. To see how desperate they are to make a couple of cents here or there, whatever it is, by exploiting people that are poor, people that are dwindling in the middle class. The fact that that's where they're at, the fact that they're going to chase down people that are working on Bitcoin and everything else. Hey, good job, guys! Like, amazing. The fact that they're this desperate, it's a good sign, and we're doing it without firing a shot. So more power.
I love it. All right, so gentlemen, I'm going to put a bow on this topic as well, and we're going to move on to our final one. And I'll just cue it up right away. British, I'm going to you, and I'm going to ask you the same question as everybody. Why are you bullish?
So I was reading in the comments, and someone said, "See, what's not happening on this stream right now is fiat bullishness." So I guess that's why you kept me last, because that's my world. So now we can get into the greedy side of people's lives, and realize that the one thing I'm bullish about today, it just happened as we like a couple hours before we got on the stream, is the fact that the SEC has written to all of these ETF appliers and asked them to basically make the application, the ETF, a cash creates ETF. That is the smartest move that the SEC has done to rid fraud from the Bitcoin space so far. And all of these doom and gloom boomers are out here on Twitter and everywhere talking shit about this thing, trying to say this is going to be ripe for manipulation, all this other stuff. This is the smartest move that the SEC has made. And the fact that they actually went out there and have told people this, ETF is coming. ETF is coming. And what that makes, listen, again, I'll say it again. The people that I'm talking to, I think there's a lot of people that are doing a lot of great work caring for all of the poor people in the world. I care for the rich people, right? I'm here to help the people that might not, I'm not talking about multi-billionaires. I'm talking about your parents, my parents, who have got a couple $1 million portfolio, and they're rich, right? They might not want to admit it because it sounds douchey, but they're rich. And those people who are sitting there going, I've built all this wealth and I don't know where this is going to end up. I'm getting to the end of my life and I'm having to downsize when, because of the work I've done, I should be upsizing my life, right? That's who I'm talking to. And for those people, the ETF is coming, and that's extremely bullish. And what the SEC did today, what they've been doing for the last few days, is absolutely bullish. It tells me that an ETF, it's on the way at this point. They're actually telling these people how to. I mean, basically there's two types of ETFs, right? One is a cash create ETF, and this is just a mechanism of acquiring the asset when shares are bought. And the other one is an in-kind ETF, right? The cash creates ETF is very simple. What they've basically instructed them to do is say, the authorized party on the application has to take that cash and send it to the ETF provider, who then has to go out into the market and actually acquire the Bitcoin. The other way to do it, when you're dealing with equities and everything else, is you say, okay, I already have a bunch of these, and I'm just going to send you the equities. So now the authorized party can be responsible for acquiring the underlying asset. You don't want to do that, because imagine someone you buy some shares of a Bitcoin ETF, and whoever the authorized party is goes outside of the bounds of the United States regulatory, like the environment, and buys Bitcoin from somewhere in Hong Kong that's been attached to terrorist financing and all this other stuff, right? So what the SEC's done here is extremely smart. They've said we want a cash creates ETF, which means that the ETF provider is responsible for acquiring the Bitcoin. They must receive the cash. Then they must go to their stated acquiring partners, which is going to be like Fidelity, Coinbase, et cetera, and those U.S. regulated entities must acquire that Bitcoin in a regulated fashion. This is extremely bullish today. So that's what I'm bullish on today. There's a bunch of other reasons I'm bullish. I'm more bullish listening to you guys as well, right? So we can talk about all of it. But the ETF is coming. People need to understand what this is going to do to price. And anyone who's sitting around here high-fiving happy hippies thinking that they're taking part and not getting to one Bitcoin is going to miss out. And they're going to miss out, and they'll never be able to get it again. We can all talk about the happy horse shit, right? But my dad immigrated to London, bought a bunch of properties, et cetera. I can't buy the same properties again, but I can buy properties. With Bitcoin, my children and my grandchildren will never, ever be able to buy the same amount of Bitcoin because it's a international asset. It's not like properties where if I miss the capital, the best area in London, I can go to the best area in New York and still buy properties, right? Or whatever the up-and-coming space is. Bitcoin is international. It's everywhere and nowhere at the exact same time. And if you don't get to one Bitcoin, your children and their children are gonna curse you out while you're dead, because they will never ever, outside of a miracle, they will never ever be able to acquire the amount of Bitcoin that you can acquire today. So focus on what's actually important for your progeny, which is getting as much of the hardest asset humanity has ever known under your belt. And the fact that the SEC did this today means that your time it's bullish, and it should be scaring the shit out of you, because it means that your time is running out. And that's extremely important, and that's why I'm bullish.
I love it. I have a question for you. So in the context of this, it's basically saying, like, you know, we need you to obtain the Bitcoin in a way where we can actually check that you've obtained it and that it's
That's right
there. And so, how, in your opinion, how difficult is it for the legacy financial system and for some of these entities to get cute with it and do some weird rehypothecation? Is that exceedingly
difficult? It's extremely difficult. Is it possible? Absolutely, because it's always, if you have a mortgage on your house, you're rehypothecating your house, right? So it is possible, but it's extremely difficult. The first thing is the United States has a law which means that only 140% of the assets, you can only rehypothecate up to 140%. So everyone trying to say you can print an unlimited amount of paper, they're just an idiot, right? It's $1,000 net worth they're talking. So the U.S. has the single best regulation for financial products anywhere in the world. That is why the entire world is waiting for U.S. markets to accept this, waiting for the SEC to approve this. So it is absolutely possible for people to get cute. But just like the GLD ETF, where everyone goes on about JP Morgan doing this, that, and the other to GLD and SLV, the biggest lawsuit they've ever had is for something called spoofing. Spoofing basically means they go into the market. If the price is $2,000, they'll place some orders on either side of that $2,000. As the price moves up to that or down to that, they'll close their orders. That's it. So everyone talking about gold and silver manipulation through the ETFs is just a moron. You don't understand how financial markets work. The manipulation, if you want to call it that, happens through the futures markets. And we've had Bitcoin futures markets for years. So the ETF coming in is actually going to bring more capital into the market. It's going to lower the cost of acquiring the Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's already at a low cost of acquisition anyway. But more capital coming in brings more eyeballs to the space, lowers fraud in the space. This is absolutely bullish for Bitcoin.
And in your opinion, the fact that we've only had futures and not spot for the last little bit, have we been kind of getting screwed in that way? Like, it's
absolutely disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And there is no reason. Well, then again, I say there's no reason, right? But look what happened with FTX, right? Gary Gensler said it himself. I want to clean up what's going on before any of these tools get exposed to the world. And the futures, he knows who's going to be using futures. There's not that many retail clients using futures. There's a lot of retail clients using spot ETFs. So they had to clean up the world basically before they got into before they got into approving a spot Bitcoin ETF. And that's what he's done. And now with this move tells me, the one today tells me that the SEC fully understands exactly where the fraud might occur in the Bitcoin space. And they're plugging the holes, and this is extremely bullish.
Interesting. The one thing I wanted to say in and around this, and I'll get the other gentlemen's perspectives on this, is the beautiful thing about Bitcoin in and around, as I guess we're terming it, if people get cute, is Bitcoin is probably one of the best tools to show people the FAFO rule, which is the fuck around and find out rule. If you fuck around with Bitcoin and you try to get cute with it, because you can audit it 24/7, because you can demand instant delivery, all of these things about Bitcoin, and because it's fixed supply and there's no backstop, there's nobody to bail you out. That's why we've seen these failures happen so quickly. And they've happened again and again at a larger and larger level. That's why FTX could only string it along for so long, bullshitting their way through buying and obtaining Bitcoin for people who thought they owned Bitcoin, is because at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding. And when there's no Bitcoin there, you can't fake that. You can't fake that for long before people figure it out. And so if anybody gets cute at those higher echelons, they're going to find out.
Yeah, I just wanted to, say, like, you might hear some thunder in the background here, but I wanted to say, any company that is going to be offering leverage on a Bitcoin product, like let's say BlackRock, right? Their iShares team says, hey, why don't we do some, like as you said, cute things with this asset? Their risk analyst, like people on Twitter really think that BlackRock doesn't have a smart team of people that understand what this asset is, right? Everyone thinks on Twitter that Twitter is smarter than BlackRock in terms of risk analysis and volatility. You guys, like, I don't understand it. They have, I guarantee you, a couple hundred nerds whose life it is to sit there and analyze what would happen to their portfolio, every cent by cent movement to the Bitcoin price, based on the Sharpe ratios and everything else that they've calculated. People don't think that they've done this before they decide to open up an ETF. So anyone who's trying to offer any of these cute leverage opportunities to people with an ETF, you're gonna, like, there will be people in place to go, stop being stupid, because the risk is just not worth it. They have it with every other asset.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to let the other gentleman chime in here. Do you guys have anything that you wanted to add in or ask or whatever?
Yeah, the question is, I guess there's actually two of them. First and foremost, because we know Gensler's been in this for a long time. Like he's been talking about this since his MIT days. He knows very well what Bitcoin is. Do you think this is more of a matter of fact of Gensler is kind of slow rolling this to decompress the spring that is Bitcoin? I mean, in terms of really watching the amount of capital flow that's coming out of institutions into the Bitcoin space, do you think he's tried to slow roll this as long as possible to prevent a massive unwinding quickly?
I actually, if that's his goal, he's doing a terrible job at it, because every day that goes by, there's more and more interest in Bitcoin. I'm sure you guys are noticing it at Swan, right? Like, there's every single day that goes by during this bear market, shitcoins have been assassinated, right? All of this rhetoric around foreign exchanges have been assassinated. Bitcoin's a mainstream asset. It's spoken about on CNBC almost every single damn day. Now you got BlackRock coming out and putting their name behind it. It is now an institutional asset. So if he's been trying to do that, he's doing a terrible job. For me, the way I look at it is the spring is just getting tighter and tighter and tighter.
I guess the second part of that question is we kind of saw some things come out, which I think a lot of us suspected with the FTX trial out there. Sam Bankman-Fried and the rest of those guys were, I guess, in support of suppressing the price by kind of slow bleeding a lot of what was going on with, them selling Bitcoin into the market. Do you think the same thing is going on with Binance?
I listen, let's put it like this. Let's get into my conspiracy theory tinfoil hat days, right? I'm not usually a conspiracy theorist, but let me ask you a question, right? If you were the United States of America and you're the person in charge of controlling this $900 trillion empire, right? Do you really want money flowing to a Chinese controlled exchange? I don't. If that's my empire to protect, I don't want money flowing through a Chinese controlled exchange.
Let's pretend we have a Muppet for a president and the rest of the administration that's ready to sell America right down the damn tube.
Listen, you're a military guy, so you know that the president's just a puppet master. Like, he's just a puppet, right? So at the end of the day, you know, like, if anything, give me your perspective on this. I actually think Biden, when it comes to the semiconductors, was much tougher on China than Trump was. And I'm a Trump guy. I was wearing a Make America Great Again hat in London in the first election. So, and I'm not even, my vote doesn't even matter, right? That's how much of a Trump guy I was. So, like, I think Biden's been tougher. Biden signed an executive order and said, if you're an American working for a Chinese semiconductor company, from this day, if you don't quit, we will take your passport. That's ballsy, right? And obviously, we all know Biden didn't do that, right? We know this, okay? So if Biden didn't do that, I don't think he's in charge of what happens to Binance. I think there's a group of people in place that are extremely competent, that are managing a $900 trillion empire where 85% of every transaction in the world goes through the U.S. dollar. I think they know exactly what's going on. I think you know, all of these things will be a setup, just like FTX blowing up. FTX blowing up, you know, people have heard some stupid shit like, what if the ETF is going to do what FTX was doing? It's like, you got to be an absolute moron to think that. They were literally illegally selling assets out from under their clients into the market to suppress the price of Bitcoin. That does not happen with US products.
Yeah. Well, I want to, I don't know, Nicholas, if you have anything to tag in here, anything to add, anything that you wanted to say before final thoughts.
Quick question. Two thoughts, actually. I mean, for me, the thing that would make me bullish on ETF is if there is some kind of proof of reserve. I think that's the most important thing. If we don't have this, like, for me, the fact it's cash or in kind, I don't think it matters. Like, because I mean, the rate in kind, like, if you can contribute Bitcoin to get a Bitcoin ETF, first, I think, why would you want to do that? I think there is no reason except maybe GBTC, right? Like a Grayscale with 600,000 Bitcoin, maybe it means that they won't be able to convert to ETF. I'm not too sure. I'm not into this.
You've got good questions. Let me just handle them one at a time because they're in-depth and complicated as well. So in terms of proof of reserves, ETF has to put out their audits, right? That has to be there. And it's always audited by third parties that are licensed to audit, et cetera, et cetera. So that part is always there. As far as one Bitcoin equaling one Bitcoin, I completely agree with you, right? But when you're dealing with a financial system, you've got to make sure you haven't got Bitcoin that's been touched by, you know, I don't know, terrorist financing or other companies or stolen Bitcoin or this, that, and the other. And that's why they want it purchased, purview of the United States.
Cool. Sorry, did it? Yeah, we're still here. Everybody's still here, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
cool. We just had a little chop, or I had a little chop on my end. Awesome. Okay. Are there any, before we kind of round out to any final thoughts for everybody, are there any other things that anybody wanted to touch on in the ETF vein or in this general vein before I go to final thoughts?
Get your position now. Don't wait. What are you doing? Like,
actually, if anything, British, I might have you give your, what I would say is excellent advice. What would the piece of advice that you give people be?
Listen, there's only 3 rules to Bitcoin, right? It's step number 1, you buy Bitcoin. Step number 2, you shut the fuck up. And step number 3, you get fabulously wealthy. That's it. And everyone's fucking it up. That's it. That's how simple this shit is, and everyone's messing it up. Think about it.
Why are we on what are we on a live YouTube to talk about it, right?
I love it. All right, awesome. Okay, so gentlemen, the way I like to round out every show is just do a quick round of any final thought that you may have, anything that you didn't get off, or anything you want to summarize that you previously said. But number 2 is recommendations. And when I say recommendations, what I mean is it can be a variety of things. It could be maybe you read a book, or you listened to a podcast, or saw a video that you really liked. Maybe there's an app that you're using that you really like, a device that you really like, or maybe there's a piece of life advice or something that you think people would value from you that you think people should go out and do. So I will give final thoughts and a recommendation first, and then I'll go down the line and get you guys. So number 1, final thoughts. I mean, I'm super excited the eclectic mix that we have here, right? And it just goes to show that Bitcoin doesn't just appeal to one group of people. It appeals to people from all walks of life everywhere. And one of the unique things that I've noticed is that I think it has gone to, in terms of wealth, it has gone to the outer fringes on both edges and is working its way in. And what I mean is, you have people that are kind of some of the most either impoverished or separated from the traditional financial system and cut off, that are recognizing Bitcoin as a tool that can help them. And then you have people at the other far end whose job it is to preserve purchasing power and protect capital, that are also recognizing that Bitcoin is an excellent tool for them to do so. And it's working its way inwards to that middle class. And so, and there's the libertarians and the cypherpunks and the weirdos in the middle that have figured it out maybe a little bit earlier than the rest. But those unique kind of separate fringes of people are in a unique position to understand it perhaps first. My recommendation to everybody, number 1, if you're in Calgary, you need to reach out to me, and you need to be at the Saturday Sat Market next month. It is December 16th. It'll be in the morning through the early afternoon. We will have forthcoming information on the venue. But if you are a vendor that wants to be there and loves the idea of earning some sats for what you do, please reach out to me. If you're a person that just wants to come, then please just come. And you can find it 2 places. Number 1 would be on the Orange Pill app. So if you're in and around Calgary, just look at the events page and you'll be able to see it. It looks, and I'm just going to show it really quick. It looks a whole bunch like this, but it'll be on your phone. Same deal. So just go there and check it out, and that'll give you information. I'll update it as we have it. And the other place that you can go is, if you're not currently on the Orange Pill app, you can also go to meetup.com. And you can search it out there. It's called the Saturday Sat Market, and you can see that it's hosted by me. And so you'll be able to say that you're coming there as well and make your way down. And then thirdly, you can reach out to me via email, and you can shoot me an email at contact@btcsessions.ca. Got the Canadian flair there. So yeah, contact@btcsessions.ca, and let me know that you want to be involved. And anybody that wants to volunteer or help in any capacity, I'd love to have you, because this is a group effort. And yeah, let's make it happen. So I'll leave that there. I'm going to toss it to Shane. Shane, final thoughts, recommendations. What do you got?
Oh, there's so much. Here we go. All right. So first and foremost, I just can't thank Ben enough for having all of us on, and everything you're doing. If you guys aren't following, if you are on YouTube or Twitter or any of these other places, go smash the like button, smash the follow button, and follow Ben. Like, Ben's on a mission, and I'm going to tell you right now, like, Ben, I don't know if you're ready for, the bigger picture here in terms of what you're going to mean to humanity in terms of history. Ben's going to be that guy that a lot of people study, and they go back in time and they say, dude, look at this guy with his bleached tip that just has laid it out for all of the cavemen transitioning from the fiat world into the Bitcoin world. And I think that's going to go a long way. Like, you're going to be studied in history. So go out there, smash and follow, all that kind of stuff. Some of the stuff that's going on in terms of what I guess love in this space. The people that are moving, the people that are taking action, the people that are figuring out as they go along and giving, they're two fucks to the wind, right? Like, go out and continue to do that kind of stuff. The guys from Cold Card, I got to tell you, the guys that I work with over at Swan, if you are looking for a place to work in your community, work at changing the lives of the people who are closest to you. If you know the good people that are out there that you've had common experiences with, that are, salt of the earth, get up and just, try to be the best person they can on a daily basis. Go change their lives. Take some time out of your busy schedule and change somebody's life. Whether it's 4 years, 10 years, how many ever years from now, they're going to remember you. Their kids are going to remember you. That's the thing that's important, I think, in this space. And so, outside of that, guys, I'm just privileged to be here. Ben, thanks again for having me on, man. And Nicolas and British, man, thank you guys for being here as well. It's been a real pleasure hanging out and talking. Hats off to you. Thanks again, Ben.
Yeah, man, thank you for that. And you're too kind. I appreciate it, but I have the luxury of standing on the shoulders of giants with a bunch of other people that came before. So, just happy to have everybody here and keep at it, I guess. But I'm going to toss it to Nicolas as well. Dude, any final thoughts, recommendations that you may have? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Shane already said it, but I think the education from BT session are awesome. Thinking about like self-custody, I think it's a great resources. On our end, we have quite a bit of resources on building local communities. So if you want to learn about that, go to galoy.io or blink.sv. And if you have not used Lightning yet, try Blink. I guess this is a wallet we're building. You should try to see that it works. It's just better than Lightning is better than any other payment system, I believe, and it's ready for prime time. So if you're not educated with Lightning, go get trying it out.
Awesome, I love it. Yeah, you got to get on the Lightning train. You got to educate yourself. I think it's always good to be privy to the tools that are out there before you absolutely need them and you're scrambling to learn them. Right? It's better to be prepared. And there's always going to be a degree to which you're not fully prepared. But if you start now, you'll be far better off. We'll toss it down the line to British. You get the final word, my friend. Any final thoughts, recommendations? Go ahead.
Yeah, firstly, I want to echo everything that Shane said about you. I think everyone should be subscribed to your channel to understand how they should protect their Bitcoin. I think basically, if Ben doesn't like it, I don't give a shit about it. That's my attitude. So if Ben ever says that your product is shit, like, it will just disappear from my consciousness in 3 seconds. So that's how powerful Ben is in my mind. I don't know about everyone else's, but that's where I hold you. That's where I learned my stuff from, right? So I want to echo everything he had to say. Secondly, look, you guys already know, everyone who's watching this, if you haven't understood by now that you need to take the time to understand Bitcoin, there's nothing more I can say. So the one thing that I want to leave as the last thing that I want to say is this. One of the most powerful questions that I have ever asked myself is, what do I want the last 10 years of my life to look like? And I think that's extremely important, because then it starts focusing your North Star. Now, you might change it and adapt it, but I think, having a North Star is extremely important. So I want everyone who's sitting here, either has Bitcoin, going to learn about Bitcoin, thinks Bitcoin's stupid, whatever it is, to focus on what do you, figure out exactly what you want the last 10 years of your life to look like, and then work backwards in creating whatever you want to create for that last 10 years and make it look the way that you want it to look. That's the most important thing. My perspectives, everyone else on this show's perspectives are irrelevant. What do you want your life to look like, and what do you need to do in order to get there? And ultimately, just stop wasting time. If you're a Bitcoiner and you haven't gotten to at least one Bitcoin yet, and you know you're slacking, you don't even need me to tell you. You look at yourself deep in your own eyes every morning in the mirror, and you know you're fucking up because you haven't gotten to one Bitcoin yet. Get to that one Bitcoin, because if you don't, it's not going to be you that regrets it, right? It's not going to be you that's disappointed. It's going to be your progeny that's disappointed, and that's the worst. I can't imagine anything worse than that. So yeah, and ultimately there's only 3 rules to Bitcoin. Step number 1, you buy Bitcoin. Step number 2, you shut the fuck up, and step number 3, you get fabulously wealthy.
I love it. What a great way to cap off the show. Gentlemen, I appreciate all of you. What a fantastic rip this was. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Everybody watching, all of these guys, their handles are in the show notes. So please go give them a follow, and you can find everything you're doing that they're up to from there. But guys, thank you so much for your time this evening. I appreciate you all. Cheers, guys. Have a good one. All right. And everybody watching, thank you so much for being here. As always, I'll throw it out there one last time. Hit that like button if you have not already. It's just below the screen here. That would be a huge solid for me. You can also share this wherever you may be. Subscribe to the channel. I'm on the crusade to 100K subscribers. I've set a goal for myself by the end of 2024. I want to be there. So if you can help me in that journey, that would be huge. Thank you guys so much already. Everybody in the chat, you guys were killing it today. It was just messages flying left, right, and center. So thank you for that. I really do appreciate it. If you want to help the show in another way, of course, you can hit up the previously mentioned sponsors there in the show notes down below. Those are, do I have them up here? Yeah, those are HODL, CoinKite, Seedor, Nunchuk, and Start9. They're all down below. And then lastly, if you need some help, if you're working through your Bitcoin education, you're learning self-custody, maybe you're diving into multisig or Lightning or your node or privacy tools, whatever it may be, you can hit me up. There is a QR code on the screen right now, which you can scan. That'll take you directly to a website where you can book me for one-on-one sessions. Super easy to do. And yeah, I can handhold you through. Of course, all of the content is free online. So of course, please do go check out the free videos. I think it's very important that all that education be free and accessible to everybody. But if you do need some handholding, then I'm always here. If you're listening to this on the pod and you can't scan the QR, it's just btcsessions.ca and you'll find me there. Anyways, guys, with that, I am out. Have yourselves a wonderful day or evening wherever you may be. And I'll see you guys next time for your daily session.
HODL the Bitcoin.